The Toronto Raptors win a game that was sometimes not exactly a for sure thing. They nearly choke it late on a free throw miss by Gary Trent Jr., but quickly make up for it on a Gary Trent steal. Let's take you through it. The Toronto Raptors win 111 to 106 against the suddenly not so terrible, but maybe kind of terrible, kind of becoming terrible again, Charlotte Hornets. It's a weird way to describe either team. The best way to describe this team, especially in the second half, with the Raptors also losing Jakob Poeltl to a finger dislocation on his pinky, is you just watch the Charlotte Hornets face the Charlotte Hornets. Is that a fair way to say that? Maybe. The post Barnes era part of this title makes me sick. I don't like the caption post Barnes era, not cute. Okay. So here's the thing. Y'all know that Scottie Barnes is my favorite player. We understand that? Okay, cool. So for the next little while, you're going to have to kind of stop thinking about him not being with the team, and you're just going to have to embrace what is. Okay? You're just... Come on now. Come on. Okay? You're just going to have to embrace this iteration of the Toronto Raptors with Ochai Agbagi and RJ Barrett and Gradey Dick and Immanuel Quickley. And you're going to have to embrace what's happening right now. And I realize that as the internet's resident Scottie Barnes nut hugger / super fan, I'm supposed to be the person coming out here and saying, oh my God, this team is unwatchable without Scottie Barnes. This is not the case. This is a basketball team, and you need to support the basketball team. If your eyes don't bleed first, this is not the prettiest brand of basketball, but there are worse outcomes. Case in point, last year was worse than this. Okay, I'll tell you that. Tonight, the Raptors had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players in double digits. And guess how old they were? Let's see. Hold on. Let me show you. Hang on. Let's get this out of the way. Okay. How old is Gradey Dick? He is 20 years old. Okay. How old is Jordan Nwora? I believe he's 24, 25. He's 25. Okay. Ochai Agbagi, he's 23. Immanuel Quickley, he's 24. RJ Barrett, he is 23. Gary Trent Jr., he's 24. I mean, is this not what you wanted? Are you not entertained? You just watched a whole bunch of guys under 25 beat an NBA team, granted, which is also full of a whole bunch of guys who are under 25. But hey, they include some pretty high lottery picks, and you don't. Your lone high lottery pick, other than RJ Barrett, is currently out with a finger dislocation that could potentially see him be out for the rest of the season. Now, I'm not relegated to the Scottie Barnes is done for the season. This guy's Wolverine. I've seen him come back from tons of stuff. Gary Trent Jr. is only 24. He might be 25. Hang on, let me just double check that for a sec. Is he 25 now? I feel like he's either 24 or 25. He's definitely not 26. He just turned 25 in January. So he just turned 25. So there we go. He is 25 years old in a few months. So good catch. Look, this was not the most entertaining game by any means. And watching the Raptors, go up against a team full of, frankly, a team that's missing Nick Richards and, a team that is easily one of the worst teams in the league. But they were 5-5 coming into this game over the last 10. And Grant Williams, for whatever reason, has been resurrected in Charlotte. And hey, they got Brandon Miller and they got Miles Bridges, and that's nothing to sneeze at. And I'm sorry, you don't get to say that wins don't matter when you lose to the Detroit Pistons and nearly lose to the Washington Wizards and lose to the San Antonio Spurs. Okay. She was saying, I'll always support the Raptors. Tonight, they didn't support my eyelids. I legit dozed off for a bit in the second quarter. It's been happening on and off, honestly. You go in and out. But if you're really watching, this is a very interesting experiment because, look, in a lot of ways, right now, you're watching the ascension and the evolution of certain players. And I think that there is something to be learned from the Golden State Warriors. We'll talk about this game just, briefly, and then we'll explore the philosophy of being able to play different ways. So tonight, the Toronto Raptors, they do lose Jakob Poeltl, which is a tough blow because you're already missing Scottie Barnes. And now Jakob Poeltl is your lone really good defender in the starting lineup. Unless, of course, you consider Ochai Agbagi a really good defender, which I don't. I consider him a defensive prospect who has disruptive skills, but he's not a really good defender at this stage, any less than Jordan Nwora is. So, yeah, Jakob is doing a lot of heavy lifting with Scottie Barnes out, with OG Anunoby traded, with Pascal Siakam gone, with Fred VanVleet gone, Dennis Schroeder. Like, my God, you've lost a lot of positive upside defenders. And you're left with a lot of not so great upside defenders, and you're really forcing guys to become better defensively. And I think tonight, Immanuel Quickley had some good defensive moments. Gary Trent Jr. had some positive defensive moments. Ochai Agbagi had some positive defensive moments, even though I don't think he overall had a great game. Yeah, but without Jakob Poeltl, life will be tough. And against the Pelicans, it could be a very easy blowout, but hopefully he won't miss too much time. But for the Raptors tonight, stepping up in place of Jakob Poeltl, we saw Kelly Olynyk. And then, when Kelly went to the bench, we were kind of like saying, okay, is it going to be Chris Boucher or is it going to be Jontay Porter? Both guys were available. Jontay Porter gets the call, and I thought he was great. I thought he was really good. He didn't do much. I mean, he scored 0 points on 0 for 1. What did he really do? He had a deflection. He had 2 assists. He had a rebound, and he overall just did the right stuff on the basketball court, which is, what we've come to expect. And the Raptors went on a bit of a run with him on the court, which was good, which was overall really good. Another guy that I really liked tonight was DJ Carton. I thought, once again, he infused the team with his penetration and his defense and, some of his shiftiness and creativity. I really like him. Like, I'm really starting to like him. Like, he is, like, I mean, I was looking at some of his college stuff, between Marquette and Ohio State. He's not really a great jump shooter, but he's not a terrible jump shooter. I mean, he shot 40% from 3, granted college 3, at Ohio State, and that dipped a little bit when he went to Marquette. Wasn't on super high volume. I think it was like 3 a game. But, he's been roughly a 75, 76% free throw shooter. And if this part of his game can ever expand, you might really have a legit, I mean, he's 23 years old. So you could legitimately have, I mean, he's born exactly a year before Scottie. He's August 5th. What's DJ's birthday? August 5th, 2000. And Scottie is like August 2001. So he's like a year older than Scottie on the dot. And I mean, that's quite something, yeah. And he went undrafted. And, ironically, you say DJ is the next Fred experiment. He's a lot bigger, springier, and more athletic and longer than Fred. He doesn't have the jump shot, though. But I'm starting to like some of his feel, and I really like his intensity. Like, there was a play where he sort of just dove for it and then tips it to I think it was RJ Barrett. And RJ gets like a 3 out of it. Like, he's just disruptive. He has a lot of energy. It's very infectious. The team seems to play harder with him. There are some actual lead guard skills that are coming out of him. And I got to be honest, there aren't a ton of lead guard skills coming elsewhere from this roster. So I can totally see why he's getting, the call to play, because he might be like the purest point guard that you have on the roster right now. Is that crazy to say? I don't think that's crazy to say. With Scottie Barnes sidelined, he is probably the purest point guard you have. And it's good to see a guy, come in and table set a little bit, and I expect him to get better. I hope he gets better. I was reading a lot about his story today and just trying to understand, some of the mental health stuff that seems like a very interesting young man. And, people get disrupted in life for a myriad of reasons. Paths get disrupted. People's progression gets disrupted. It could be an injury. It could be a loss of a loved one. It could be mental health. It could be a lot of things. And sometimes, college scouts, pro scouts, draft experts, GMs may look disfavorably at blips, question marks, especially in the second round. You don't want to take on somebody who can be considered a head case, but someone having mental health break or needing, some time away from the team due to mental health issues is not a sign that a person is, a problem at all. Actually, I think it's a great sign of courage that he decided to take that break away, and hopefully things are good now. And maybe the Raptors have truly found somebody. Speaking of point guards that are really I like a lot. Congratulations to my boy Jeff Doughton for getting a 2-way contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. Very, very happy for that dude. His trainer reached out to me right away and he just said, thanks for all the support. We'll not forget it. We will always appreciate it. Thank you to this community for always, bringing Jeff up. It's hard, man. I don't mean to get too sentimental about it, but you can get real lost in the shuffle, right? Like you're not a high lottery pick. You're not Markelle Fultz. You're not Lonzo Ball. You're not LaMelo Ball. You're not Anthony Edwards. You can get lost in the shuffle really quickly. You get 1 stop, 2 stop, and then suddenly they stop calling. And, keeping a guy in the news cycle, interviewing his trainer, talking about him, starting this movement, free Jeff Doughton, I doubt it did anything. Maybe if nothing else, it did something for him. Maybe if nothing else, it showed him that there was a small pocket of crazy Raptor fans that just adored him and adored his game. And I'm just looking forward to him proving a lot of people wrong because, yeah, I think he's awesome. Continuing on with the Raptors analysis, in terms of Ochai Agbagi, I was a little bit surprised that he got the start personally. It's almost like at this point, people who are asking for Gradey Dick to start are like, does the team need to die? Like, do people need to die for this guy to start? Like, what is the aversion to starting Gradey Dick? I'm actually for it. Without Scottie, you are very, very much starved for rebounding, defense, point of attack defense, disruptive stuff. And, Ochai gets a chance right now, right? You can make a case right now that maybe Gradey should be starting over Gary. Sure, you can make that case. But I think bringing him off the bench and keeping his confidence up is good. Clearly, it's working. Gradey has been playing really well. Tonight, he shoots 60% from 3. I mean, this is just becoming a trend now where, the most remarkable thing about Gradey Dick is this every single night you can count on this. It's consistent every night. The shot making, the cutting. I thought a couple of the shots that he took tonight were really, really tough shots, like contested shots that maybe if he can look back on it, maybe he wouldn't take those shots. But I'm really liking him. And, sometimes it's just like he'll get an offensive rebound that you're just like, how did he get that? He is just constantly doing the right thing on the court. And I have to say, I was thinking about who my second favorite Raptor would be after OG got traded, because clearly Scottie's my favorite Raptor. And Christian Koloko was, my third favorite Raptor. And losing OG and Christian Koloko, like, I got to tell you, I cried into my pillow for nights. So I got to say, I think Gradey is my second favorite Raptor right now. Like, it's infectious. Like, just watching a young player who's 20 years old make some of the reads that he's making, be consistently shot ready, enter the game with this like intense focus. Like, he doesn't lose focus for 1 second. You don't see him sleeping on plays. Like, he is just constantly scanning. He takes this game damn seriously. And I respect that. For a 20-year-old, I really respect that, because 20-year-olds, they can be pretty much scatterbrained. A lot of 20, 21, 22-year-olds, they have a lot of brain farts. They lose concentration on the basketball court. Gradey, I just appreciate this about him, whether he was struggling, whether he is, thriving now. Maybe he'll struggle again at some point. Maybe he'll thrive even more. There is a constant stoicism with him where you don't see him like get too high and too low. I call this the Tim Duncan effect. And I really appreciate players like this. And as much as it's weird, because Scottie's my favorite player and he's constantly high and low, but this quality in Gradey, where he does not become rattled by the moment, you do not see him hanging his head too much after like a couple of misses. There is a commitment to doing things in a particular rhythm, in a particular way. I got to tell you, and there's another player that really, really had this quality that I noticed very early in his career, and that was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Yo, he's awesome. Yeah. What's going on, man? When you caps lock like this, it freaks me out. What's going on? Clutch Tatum, congratulations, man. I'm glad. I'm glad you've come a long way on this. And SP, are you the same SP that was hanging around at Penn Dance that I met so many times? Are we talking about the same SP? If so, congratulations. I mean, not congratulations. Thank you. I wanted to say, why am I saying congratulations? Thank you. Thank you for supporting Penn Dance. I really appreciate it. And it was super cool to stand on stage as my completely uncomposed self and to look out. And I saw you like at almost every single screening. Very, very cool. Thank you. Moving on. RJ Barrett. Another super efficient night, man. 23 points, 9 rebounds, 5 SP saying, no, that's not me. Okay, it might be another SP. I will have to figure that out. Okay. Yeah, like, I mean, the stat line is crazy. I think sometimes like he still takes like these really tough shots that are just so like glaringly obvious that he's stretching himself a little bit. But I really appreciate that on a night where Scottie is out and there's a clear opportunity for somebody to take, 25 shots and go crazy and try to be the man, especially against a worse team. This tends to happen when the star is out, like somebody just decides to hijack the offense. That really didn't happen tonight. You might say Ochai Agbagi hijacked the offense. He didn't. He just took a lot of shots that were available to him and he was cutting a lot and he got offensive rebounds, etc. So I really like that RJ played largely within himself and, overall it was good. Immanuel Quickley, really interesting game. He was on triple double watch pretty much the entire game. Starts out the first quarter kind of shaky, a little bit worrying, seeing like how the Charlotte Hornets lead after the first quarter, and you're just like, like how's this going to work without Scottie Barnes? Is Immanuel Quickley going to be able to punch up into this like lead initiator without a dominant secondary creator next to him? And I think he struggled to start, but then he calmed down, and there was like a lot of good shot making. Once again, getting a lot closer to the rim on the finishes, getting all the way to the rim. I thought it was a really positive game for him. Defensively, it's pretty good. 11 assists. When they blitzed him on the coverages, he was like making good passes. Not great passes, good passes. He is still far away from great passes. He's still far away from advanced reads. But honestly, with his shooting and his speed, if he ever figures out the playmaking side of basketball, like, yeah, you're talking about, one of the top 10 to 12 point guards in the NBA. He has that skill set because when you can shoot the deep ball, the angles open up so much, right? And unlike a lot of these, 3-point bombing point guards, like Damian Lillard, Trae Young, Darius Garland, all of whom, by the way, are sieves on the defensive end. Immanuel Quickley is not a pylon on the defensive end. He is a capable defender who will get hopefully better, who cares about that side of the basketball. So what those other guys have is like they're much better playmakers. They're better playmakers. They're better finishers. They're better shot makers. They tend to just create better angles for space. They know how to navigate space a little bit better. Maybe they have like more counters. There's a lot of stuff that they have. But what he has is incredible length, with a 6'8", 6'9" wingspan. That's going to help him defensively. He has a commitment to the defensive end, and he's pretty young. So, the upside on Immanuel Quickley is enormous. It is every bit as high, if not higher, than the upside on a guy like Jalen Brunson. Sounds crazy to say right now, but if I told you the same thing at 24 about Jalen Brunson, you'd say that was crazy too. Stick with this dude. He has a chance to be really good. And the 11 assists do not dissuade me from my initial analysis that he is still lacking very much as a playmaker. He struggles to see advantages. There are times when he kind of just makes up his mind that he's going to go to the right side of the floor, and Gary Trent Jr. just ends up open on the left side of the floor. He's not really reacting too well to punish the defense in terms of the mistakes they're making. He's sort of like just figuring out before, like he's mapping out the floor, and then he'll make his move, but he doesn't do the greatest job of adjusting to the next 2 seconds. This is something that I think someone like Scottie does really well. I also think Gradey does this pretty well, where there are like fractions of mistakes that the defense will make, and Grady's able to pick up on that or capitalize on it. I think those two guys also have a major advantage in terms of playmaking over Immanuel Quickley, is that they're huge. So they're always able to see the defense or see over the defense. So I think that the playmaking thing can be developed to some extent. Maybe he's never going to have like elite vision. No one is expecting him to become Trae Young. But if he can just sharpen this up by 10, 15%, the Raptors can be much better off for it. Ochai Agbagi, crashing the glass, really interesting, had a huge dunk. And I kind of had a controversial tweet about it because I said, hey, look, can we keep the main thing the main thing? He had this massive poster dunk, and they're on some diatribe about Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes. And now I understand that something very big has happened for Caitlin Clark, and I'm not diminishing that in any way. Please understand, if you follow this channel, you understand that I actually watch female hoops. So I'm not one of those people who's going to come out and be like, "Yo, we're men here." This is not the point. So please don't make it a gender thing. I do want to say, however, that this is not an immediate thing. It's not breaking news. This is something that can be discussed throughout the broadcast. But if the game that you're calling and a guy just has like possibly one of his best plays ever as a Toronto Raptor, and it's happening right in front of your face, you can take a 20-second break from talking about Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes and just talk about like what a great dunk that was. Because now you got this guy and he's like all over ESPN and SportsCenter, having this big dunk, and you got commentary that's basically talking like it didn't even happen. That's weird to me. I'm sorry. Like, I understand. I understand this is not a don't talk about Caitlin Clark on an NBA broadcast. You should talk about Caitlin Clark. What she's doing is historic. She is going to grow the women's game in ways that no player before her ever has. And that's incredible. The women's game is in very good hands. But there's absolutely no reason to be talking about this and to not stop talking about it when a guy has a huge play like that. Like, it almost makes you feel as a person watching that what you're watching is not important, which I find to be kind of stupid. So it's like, get over it, like you can be like, oh, wow, what a dunk by, Ochai Agbagi, sick, wicked, nasty, whatever. God, I miss Chuck Swirsky. And then go right back to Caitlin Clark. What do you have, ADHD? Like, you can just go back to it. Like, it's cool, and shit. Slow-mo saying Pistol Pete only played 3 years and didn't have the advantage of the 3-point line. Sure. And there's pace and there's whatever. So, if we're going to shit on Caitlin Clark's record, we should shit on LeBron James' record too, because we can say LeBron James is scoring 40,000 points when there's a 3-point line, and a lot of guys before him didn't have a 3-point line. Or we could talk about pace. Pace in the 90s was super slow. Maybe Jordan would have scored 50 points per game had he played in LeBron's pace. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you got to go with what is being done today. And Caitlin Clark is a fucking hell of a player. Like, she's incredible. She's really great to watch. She's definitely gonna be the first overall pick. And yeah, she's awesome. So I think the women's game is going in a really great place. I've been watching WNBA since 2002, on and off. And I'm a really big Candace Parker fan. So don't come at me with the whole like gender thing about basketball. Okay, just shut the hell up about that. I'm just saying, make the main thing the main thing. This is the Raptors broadcast. Something really big happened for the Raptors. Just talk about it for 20 seconds. Just indulge us. You know what I mean? Like, it's all good. Anyways, moving on. I thought Jordan Nwora was awesome tonight. Like, it was really interesting. His shot making and just getting downhill. Awesome in a against the Hornets kind of way. Like, you guys can see, like, the Hornets are not exactly good, right? Like, I mean, they're playing Bryce McGowan's, JT Thor, Davis Bertans, like 30-year-old rookie, Trey Mann. Like, geez, they're not a good team. They are an NBA team, however, and I think Jordan Nwora was decent tonight. Muhammad Lay saying, how was Carton? I thought Carton was awesome, man. Yeah. In terms of anybody else, yeah. And in terms of the Hornets, I thought Brandon Miller was really, really, really good. His shot making and compete level and maturity has been really impressive. And this is coming from somebody who was very low on him. I had him sixth on my mock draft. I said that the team that takes him over Scoot Henderson is going to regret it for the rest of the decade, blah, 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 blah. I said a lot of like extreme things about him. And I think we have found this year's Walker Kessler. Every single year, there's a prospect that I take a very, very harsh stance against. And I think the year before, who was it? Yeah, it was Paolo. No, it was Walker Kessler. I think I had Paolo third or something. And was there a player before that? The player before that was I'm trying to think like 2021. Who was that one player that I was like, oh my God, the team that takes this guy is going to be so stupid. Was it Jalen Suggs? It might have been Jalen Suggs. Anyways, point is, Brandon Miller's been awesome, and I think he'd go top 3, top 4 in this draft again if it were redone today. He's certainly not what's wrong with the Hornets, and I'm very curious to see like what this team can pull together, under a new coach and hopefully new ownership and maybe some rebuilding this offseason and some youth like behind Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. Like, is that enough of a young core? Is Miles Bridges a part of it? I don't know. Anybody else? No, we're good. Okay, team stats quick, and then we will get to the first caller. So team stats, in terms of team stats, the Toronto Raptors shoot 34% from 3, 45 rebounds. So they dead tie, like it was an exact tie with the Hornets. 11 offensive rebounds apiece, 34 defensive rebounds apiece. The Raptors do crack the 25 assist barrier, which is good. This is the weirdest game ever. 8 steals a piece. Is this a typo? Both teams had 8 steals. Both teams had 6 blocks. Both teams had 45 rebounds. Both teams had 11 offensive rebounds. 15, 16 foul. Oh my God, that's crazy. Both teams had 1 technical foul. Weird. Okay. Yeah. Almost dead tied for turnovers, 17-16, like points off of turnovers. There's your win. M Jones saying typo. Are you sure? We can check NBA.com. I'm curious because that just looks wrong. Like, what are the odds that all of those things are aligned for a team? Like, that seems extremely. I've come to slowly not trust ESPN.com very much at times. Okay. So we will have to double check. Odin Prime saying Boucher does not fit the offensive scheme. Yeah, tough. That's going to be tough. Yeah, where are the team stats? Why am I struggling with this? Okay, so 45 rebounds. Yo, that wasn't a typo. It wasn't a typo at all. 6 blocks. No, it wasn't a typo. Okay. M. Jones, you are wrong. Okay, let's pull up the post game, but I'll let Lil John on first. Lil John, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Not too bad.
So do you want to talk about that game, or you want to talk about the real news, the Pacers pick?
The Pacers pick? Because did they just lose to the Spurs?
Yeah.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for TJ McConnell, it would have been a complete ass whooping. It's gonna be next 4 games at Dallas, home against Minnesota, at Orlando, at Oklahoma City. They have an insane, and it gets even worse after that. They got to play at LA, but at both LA, at Golden State. Like they're in big time trouble. That pick might be like 13. It could get to like 12.
I don't think so, bro.
I'm telling you, pull up the schedule.
Oh well, holy shit. Weirdly enough, I saw. So I'm really happy you told me that they lost to the Spurs because I actually picked the Spurs tonight on my parlay, which is hilarious.
Wemby is getting to the level where he can just win a game by himself.
Against the Pacers? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but the Pacers are basically like the 15th best team in the NBA. That's still pretty impressive.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. So let's pull up the standings.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they're screwed, man. If you gave their GM some truth serum, how bad do you think he feels about the Siakam trade?
Uh
They have to pay him 250 million or they lose him. Oh my god.
are you feeling some Schadenfreude right now?
I would be really, really scared if I was him.
Mm. Okay. So the odds of them falling below Chicago or Atlanta are like nil. I hope you understand that. Like
No,
they're
the record is
34 and 28. Okay. They are 5 games ahead of Chicago. They are 7 games ahead of Atlanta, unless one of those two teams is about to go on a power surge, which they are not. They are at worst going to finish 8th, which means they're going to be in the play-in. Now, in fairness, if they finish in the play-in and then they lose in the play-in, now we're talking lottery. Now we could be talking 13th, right? But they'd have to lose to either Chicago or Atlanta.
Oh wait, if you win the play-in, like yeah, your seed, you're gonna get like the higher seed, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that sucks then. Because
But I mean,
yeah,
okay, so let's just say the season ends right now. They would face the Miami Heat.
which they would lose.
We don't know that.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
let's just
It's a playing game.
it's a one game plan, right?
Yeah,
Like the Miami Heat, I
they
believe,
got smoked
lost.
by Atlanta. Yeah,
Didn't Miami lost their first playing game last
yeah,
year,
by Atlanta, they got smoked
and then they beat Chicago. So
barely.
go figure. Right, sure. And Chicago barely beat us, so it's like it's luck of the draw. What
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying is that ultimately, if they beat, Miami, well, now they have the 7th seed. There goes your pick. It's going to be the 17th
yeah. I
or
never looked at it
16th.
like that. You're right. I never looked. I forgot about the playing stuff. Kind of determines your seeding, but like their schedule, like they might be 500 the rest of the way from here on out.
Sure, that's good enough to finish 6 games above 500, though.
Yeah, yeah, and
Which
then yeah,
means that's good enough to finish with like 47 wins, which is pretty decent,
yeah,
right? Wait,
yep,
mathematically, is that correct?
yeah.
6
They
games above
have
500.
34 wins right now, so they're gonna finish with like still probably 46 and 36 around. Actually, maybe like 45 wins, 45 and
Sure.
30.
So I mean, like, and I mean, like, they're so close to Orlando and Miami right now, and Philly, by the way. And Philly is not going in the right direction. Just a heads up.
They
Philly
had
is
a great
5 and
win.
5 over their last, and Miami and Orlando are trending in the right direction because they're 8 and 2 in their last 10, right? So, okay, it could end up being potentially Indiana versus Philadelphia in the play-in. That's crazy. Pascal Siakam versus Nick Nurse, or Pascal Siakam versus Kyle Lowry. Like that could be very interesting. But what I'm saying is like these 3 teams are neck and neck, or 4 teams are neck and neck. Like Philadelphia, Orlando, Miami, and Indiana are separated by 2 games. The only thing going against Indiana right now is they're trending in the wrong direction. They have a really hard schedule. They have a really hard schedule, but I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, it all depends on the plane. Their plane appearance, which
Yeah.
sucks. Sucks that the plane was invented, but yeah, it
Well, I
was
mean, if
like
the play-in wasn't invented, there's no chance they missed the playoffs.
yeah, you're right. But at least it's 8 instead of 7. It could because they could jump a seed though.
Well, if they finish 8th, which it seems like is possible that they will, they could also finish 6th. We don't know that. So I'm saying if they finish 8th, I'd say that the odds of them finishing 9th or 10th are just as high as their odds of finishing 7th.
Yeah,
So either case, it doesn't really matter to me because obviously I'd prefer the 13th pick over the 17th pick, but it's like Who knows? Um,
Do you
I think
think
that entire range is pretty strong draft wise.
Do you think Masai would dangle the Pacers 26 pick in like to move up? Or do you like it's maybe he doesn't value anybody enough in this draft, right?
I don't know. I think if there's a prospect that's falling that maybe
Yeah.
they saw as a top 5 pick and maybe he's fallen to 7, I'm sure that they would look at entertaining it at least. I mean, you can't be banking against Indiana to be bad. Tyrese Halliburton is a really good player. They have a really competent general manager, a really good ownership group, a really good coach. Like there's, Jarris Walker, Benedict Mathurin. There's a lot of positive talent on that team. So betting on them being bad in 2026 is probably like a really stupid bet. That being said, 2026 looks like a really great draft. So even if they're like finishing with the 18th pick, that's still a hell of an asset. Because I mean, like, consider DeLon Wright, consider OG Anunoby, consider like where the Raptors have really thrived in the draft. It has been in that like 18 to 25 and 18 to 30 range. They've been great in that range. So,
were you watching Blazers Grizzlies last night?
No, but the Grizzlies lost.
Oh yeah, they blew a big lead. They were up 15 going into the fourth, and they lost in overtime.
Tank.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. Their starting lineup is Vince Williams, Goodwin, Zaire Williams, Aldama, and Lamar Stevens, who is a third string player. He doesn't even play.
He didn't plays hard though.
Yeah,
I like Lamar Stevens. He plays hard.
He does play hard, but he's not that good.
I don't know. I guess like, I grew up in an NBA where there were always guys who just hustled and played really hard. And so, I appreciate guys who dive on the floor for loose balls. That's why I really like DJ Carton for the Raptors. That's why I also like Gradey Dick. Like these guys, they dive. And Lamar Stevens is like that too. I like guys who just go out there and play hard and compete. So yeah.
Nowadays those guys are also like 38% from 3 and can handle the ball. Those hustle guys are also like insanely skilled now. Like for example,
can you name a Raptor that is insanely skilled and hustles really hard?
On this team, none.
Okay. Can you name a guy on the Indiana Pacers who is an insane hustle guy who's also really skilled?
I'd say Neesmith. Fits that.
Insanely skilled to you?
Well, not insanely skilled, but he can shoot the ball. He can slide his feet on defense, and he hustles, and he's willing to get hurt. Wouldn't you say?
I mean, he's shooting less than 70% from the free throw line.
My point is the Lamar Stevens types are like, you have to like bring something else to the table.
Fair enough. Yeah. I don't know. I find that even a lot of the Lamar Stevens types don't understand that they're Lamar Stevens types. So what I'm saying is I like guys who have that sort of infectious, positive, hard playing energy and guys who compete to win, even when the rest of their team is not competing to win. It's very easy to become overwhelmed by the fact that your teammates are just fucking up and not getting back on defense. But the fact that you will always get back on defense, you will always do the right thing, is a really positive sign for me. And, maybe all he ever does is become a 9-year NBA, role player at the end of a bench. Hell of a career. Hell of a fucking career, as far as I'm concerned. Get your money, carve your niche. Not everyone is going to be Scottie Barnes and, Anthony Edwards. Like, there are other paths to being in the NBA. And, we have to learn to appreciate sometimes the Thaddeus Youngs and the, Jakob Poeltls, and I mean, not to say that those guys are lottery picks, but like your PJ Tuckers, right? You guys like that. So anyways, any final thoughts, man?
You made a great point last live that the East is really wide open from
next year.
If you think like a year or two down the line, it's really just the Celtics, and they're about to break up because they can't pay everybody. and if they win, it's gonna, things are gonna change. It's really wide open. Like the Raptors are, in a way, they're not in that bad of a position.
No,
Just
they're not.
because of their conference. Just because it's really primarily the conference. Like Luka, Wembanyama, like they're so lucky those guys aren't in the East. Because
Hey, the way player mobility is going right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Luka is in the East in 2 years, right? Or maybe like Chet and Wemby are going to stay put, but maybe Shai Gilgeous-Alexander ends up in Miami or something. Like shit happens. What I'm saying is that like the Raptors will have a window from next year to start becoming more competitive, and I think from there they could open themselves, a 2-3 year window to compete, especially if Gradey Dick and Immanuel Quickley become, really, really good. Like you do need more than just Scottie, but what I find to be really great about the Raptors is they're learning to win in different ways. They're learning to win defensively on the glass. They're, the movement is starting to get a lot better. There's like a lot more rhythm to their offense. It seems to be running on a string where, you're losing a piece like Scottie Barnes and you're just plugging in a piece. Like, I mean, this is how the Warriors worked, right? For years, this is how they've worked. Like they've been able to switch out pieces and move in other pieces, and it just keeps working. The system keeps working. And so, moving out Scottie Barnes and moving in Ochai Agbagi, like, holy shit, what a drop off in talent. But you're able to make it work. Your offense is still cohesive and it doesn't look completely discombobulated. Yeah, it's worse. Half court offense tonight was not good, but you swim, you float, you make it work. So that's all you can hope for, is that you can play different ways and still win and be effective.
Yeah. All right, yeah, that's all for me. I do want to say Zion, who's my favorite player, he's making his Toronto debut on Tuesday for the first time in his career, which is kind of crazy.
Touch wood.
That's crazy,
dude. Yeah. Touch wood. He's your favorite player?
Yeah, man. I mean, I say that reluctantly these days because it feels kind of sad watching. I mean, he legitimately is a shell of himself. If you compare him to 2021.
Oh yeah,
the stuff he was doing that year was incredible.
Shit. Dude, even last year.
Yeah, but even last year he lost like a point 0.2, like he lost a little bit of a step, but it wasn't as noticeable. This year, like the Willie Green and the Pelicans coaching staff and organization, they're sending clips to the league office saying he's getting fouled, and he's not even getting fouled. He can't get by guys the way he was. He is getting, like, he does have a really bad whistle, but that's because of the player build, right?
Right. Yeah, but I mean, he got used to it. Larry Johnson didn't get fouls. Shaq didn't get fouls. Scottie's not getting fouls. If you're big and strong, they don't like to call fouls. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Peace. Have a good one. All right, so let's go to the post game. Hear from Ochai Agbagi on his first start.
A situation like this, at this stage of the season, how important is it to take advantage of like a spot start or extended minutes, whatever the opportunity might present?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, never taking that for granted, never taking any opportunity that I get, whether it's 5 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. Just being in that position, I think, is where I want to be, and making the most of it is, what I'm trying to do.
You guys have a couple of really good passing bigs on this team. For a player like yourself that moves well without the ball, how much of a benefit is that? I mean, even today, a couple assists early on from Yak on cuts.
Yeah, so it's really nice, really nice to be found on those cuts, and because it's always a short window of when you're open and all that. So having those bigs that have that ability to pass and play make like that is really cool. It's really fun to play with.
What's the learning curve like there? I mean, you spent most of your time here so far playing with Kelly in the second unit. Do you have to spend that time building chemistry with a player like Yak, or is it just one of those things where you cut and he's going to find you?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, although I haven't been on the court with him, I've been watching him, and him and Kelly are obviously a little bit similar in that way, where they find cutters and make those distributing plays. So just being ready for those and playing off that.
How would you rate your performance tonight?
I'd rate it like a C. Kind of hard on myself, but I obviously didn't shoot it well, and I thought that's something that could have shown up and could have been better at. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously room to grow, and even if I made all those shots, I would have said, probably like a B+ or A-. That's just kind of how I am. I always want to get better, game by game. So.
Darko's said a couple times that he's told you guys that he's not going to, good game, bad game, he's not going to sort of change his judgment on that. But this is a big opportunity for you guys with Scottie out. How much pressure are you putting on yourself over this next little bit?
I mean, I think the best thing to do is not put any pressure on yourself. Yeah, easier said than done, obviously, but to just trust in him that, whatever you do out there, he fully supports you, and obviously it's early and you're building his trust, but just going out there and playing hard, and if you're doing that and you make mistakes, going 100 miles an hour, he should be good with that. So that's just how I play, and that's how I approach the game is, just playing hard, defensive mindset, and just trying to be a leader out there. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Trying to shame them into getting you a Toronto FC jersey or something?
No. I actually just got sent this by Sporting Kansas City today. So.
Darko said he talked to you and RJ before the game. I don't know if it was together or separate, but said even with Scottie out, he wants you guys to sort of stick to what you guys do and don't try to do too much. How do you feel you did with that first night without Scottie?
Yeah, Scottie's a big part of what we do. It takes a group effort to make up for what he does. Takes a lot more effort, honestly, because he does so much that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. So a lot of effort, things we have to make up for. The intangibles things he does, extra possessions he gives us, the defensive versatility. So kind of a group effort to make it that up.
Yeah, we talked briefly before the game, but so can you just take me through what you think or may have happened with Scottie?
I still haven't seen the video.
Yeah. And so what does anyone kind of explain to you?
They said I kind of kicked him a little bit. Nah, I didn't even know. I didn't know until today that I called him yesterday. Even when I called him, I didn't know that I did it. I probably got to call him back. Like, my fault, bro. But
and I mean, in terms of we were talking to Ochai, and any opportunity in the NBA can be pivotal for a guy's career, and so
right.
in your role as point guard, are you kind of, I don't know, conscious, but are you kind of looking for opportunities to help guys get confident, kind of find their feet, and kind of show their best selves?
Absolutely. To your point, I think my first game I ever played in my career was a preseason game, and all the guards were hurt. Like 6 or 7 guards were hurt, and that was my first chance to get to play, and I took advantage of it, and Ochai did the same. He was aggressive. He crashes every time, which our team loves and needs. A lot of rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds. So, and he plays defense with a lot of energy, a lot of effort. He's just a winning player, which you need to win in this league. So, he did a great job tonight.
Do you, on that theme, like, do you expect this team? Who knows where you might end up regarding chasing that playoffs and play-in spot, but the attention to detail, the accountability, do you expect that to be front and center, really?
Yeah, the day-to-day grind of trying to be a champion never changes. What we have to do on a day-to-day basis of, like you said, attention to detail, film. We have to do all the little things to give ourselves a chance to win, play with great effort and energy. And we have to be hard workers, whether that's on a day like tomorrow, we have to come in and we have to have a great practice every single day. We can't take any days off, and that's just who we have to be.
How different did your offense feel without Scottie?
Definitely different. Anytime somebody that plays 40 minutes a night is not in the game, I think everything changes, but you try to keep it the same as much as you can. Scottie probably gets me like 4 open shots a game, so makes my job really easy. But everybody came in, chipped in, played with great effort. Everybody was playing with great energy, so that's what we're gonna need.
As Grange just referred to, a play-in spot still in range. What's the mindset have to be given that Scottie's out and Yak might be out as well?
I think the mindset just has to be to come in every day and give everything you have with great effort and great attention to detail. Everybody is like talking about the result of the plan, but I think if you put everything you have into every day, I think that's the most important part about it. Obviously, we have to go out and compete as well, but just going out and whether it's a practice, a game, film session, just being present in that moment and trying to get better in that moment is a big part of winning.
Are there parts of your game that have to expand or should expand now with Scottie out?
I think I have to be a better leader, which I think I have to do regardless, whoever's on the floor. We're a very young team, so just trying to show guys where they need to be and just encouraging guys to do the best they can and just try to do my part as a leader to try to encourage guys to help them get better, to help them improve. But, on the floor, I try to be who I am, which is be aggressive, compete, and have fun. That's, kind of what I just stand by.
Feeling pretty well in key jobs.
I talked to those guys individually before the game, and what I told them is they're gonna have expanded role and minutes, and I told them that I'm not gonna make any conclusions based on one game, good or bad, So I thought that tonight both of them they did some really good stuff, and I think there is another layer to it. What they can do communication-wise, where they need to be on the floor, that kind of stuff. We allowed them to score 62 points in the paint, and that's big emphasis for us to protect our paint better. And I think that couple of those situations was actually Ochai that he needed to support and help, and Jordan as well. But overall, I thought that they did a really good job. They gave us extra fuel. I think Ochai was really good offensively in the first half. He had a couple of really good cuts, really good finishes, brought a lot of energy, and good for him. He managed somehow to get 20 shots in the game.
Is the unfamiliarity caused the last couple minutes there, the 11-0 run to make it a little bit closer than it should have been?
Yes, but I also thought that we had a couple of wide open shots that we missed there. What I did not like is us turning the ball over. They were supposed to take control of the game and get organized. We had 2-3 turnovers that are not, we cannot have. But definitely, end of the game, we got to be able to know spacing and what we're running and how to execute that depending on their coverages. It's going to be a great film tomorrow.
It seemed that without Scottie, there's a big playmaking void that, some of it will come from the centers, and RJ was in that sort of position where he's trying to help carry the team in the hybrid units. What did you see? 5 assists, 5 turnovers. What did you see from him sort of, he's still looking to score, but in that sort of different role?
That was part of our conversation that I had with both Quickley and RJ before the game. Don't think that you gotta do more now when Scottie is there, that you gotta, take more shots necessarily. You guys are both great players. You're gonna get your shots in the game. Just allow it to come naturally and make sure that we have a good ball movement and we're playing together. We are reestablishing the identity, I don't know how many times this year now, but that has to be that has to be our identity, that we move the ball, that we play together, that we play off of each other. And I thought for the big part of the game we did a good job outside of those 14 turnovers. So hopefully next game he has 10 assists and 0 turnovers.
Do you have an update on Yak, or is it too early?
Yak he had his pinky dislocated in the game, so we did the evaluation over here. There is no fracture, but he's going through further investigation right now.
And what did you think of how Kelly and Jonte stepped up in his absence?
I thought that Jonte, he played 7-8 minutes in the second half. I thought that he did well. When your numbers are cold, he had 2 assists there. He had 1 deflection, 1 block shot. I thought that he was ready for the game, and that's what we always want from players, to be ready. And Kelly stepped up there with the first unit now, so he was able to play a little bit with Quickley and to figure out those blitzes and when they're to be on the floor, and they had some really good conversations on the floor as well.
What do you think of Quickley taking on some sort of that expanded role without Scottie?
Make the right play every time down the floor. That's the message that I'm sending him. He had 11 assists tonight. They were blitzing him. I thought that he had a couple of really, really good reads. I thought that a couple of times he could do a little bit better. but I'm loving that he's in this position, that he's going to have so much more to handle. I thought that he did a really good job of making sure that Gary gets touches, that RJ gets touches to run a team, but at the same time to stay aggressive, So I was really happy with his performance tonight.
We could hear the reaction from here. Who got the chain today?
RJ got a chain, and our video guy, Rashawn Brothers, got his first scout, and that loud celebration was celebrating him that he got us a winning scouting report.
Thanks.
Interesting. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about what the Raptors can accomplish in the post Scottie Barnes era. Sorry to continue to say that, but this really does feel like, let me put it this way. Whenever there's a dynamic that becomes present in the media of, Fred, Scottie Pascal, OG Fred, Scottie RJ, it's just the dynamic remains, the faces change, right? So if the Toronto Raptors end up just cratering, losing 8-9 straight, it's going to flip the narrative a lot on how important Scottie is, right, to the team. It's going to be like, oh wow, they were trending towards 500, and maybe they had a play-in chance, and then Scottie goes out, and look, the whole thing falls apart, and RJ's a scrub, and Immanuel Quickley's a scrub, and this guy's a scrub, and that guy's a scrub, and nobody's good, and whatever. Conversely, if they run the table, they win some games they're not supposed to, and maybe they win 4 or 5 or something crazy like that, then suddenly, people are going to do that thing that they did with Vince or with John Morant, where their teams went on big runs without him, and say, well, how good is this guy anyway, right? This is a failure to understand basketball at all, completely. Teams are not preparing for you the same way. They're not getting up for you the same way now that you have Scottie Barnes out. It's not like they were really getting up to play the Raptors in the beginning, but you're going to catch a lot of teams napping. This could be a very positive thing for guys like RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley to really build on their resume. There is, of course, the downside right now of playing these games without Scottie, which is that Immanuel Quickley's numbers are going to go through the roof, which is going to probably impact his negotiation for his next contract. I think, if he ends up, his numbers already, we can take a look at it. His numbers already are pretty impressive as a Raptor, and they're only going to get more impressive, right? So just pull this up real quick. The analytics are not impressive, but he, overall, has been impressive. Pull this up real quick. So just in terms of raw stats, right? As a Toronto Raptor, over the last, 5 games has been insane, but this is craziness. But so as a Raptor, he's averaging 17 points. His assists are through the roof. It's almost 6 a game, right? And if he continues to build on these numbers and ends the season maybe as a Raptor averaging 18 and 7 or something like that, because he's been putting up these double-digit assist numbers lately, he's averaging over 10 assists per game over the last 3 games, right? So with Scottie out, you can expect those assist numbers to continue to climb. It's not that, suddenly he's like some great playmaker. He's evolving, though. He's getting better. So expect that number of 25 million that he reportedly was after with the Knicks to be the floor of his next contract. There's a downside. The upside is you learn to play a different way. And obviously, nothing that the Raptors do without Scottie Barnes should be considered, an indictment of Scottie at all. There's no doubt in my mind. The analytics are conclusive on this. The Raptors are a much better team with Scottie on the floor. Okay. This is not a Cade Cunningham situation where you're like, how much is he really impacting winning? Scottie's impacting winning in a really, really big way. He's impacted winning through 3 different iterations of the Raptors this year, several iterations of the Raptors last year, and the year before. Clearly, this is a good opportunity for the Raptors, I think, internally to see who's our second guy. What can we expect, on a night-to-night basis from Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett? Are either of these guys capable of anchoring an entire unit? Because obviously, if you're able to anchor the first unit without Scottie, then that makes me confident, if I'm a coach, that you might be able to anchor the second unit when Scottie comes back. Also, don't rule Scottie coming back. I said this earlier in the live. I'll say it again. He has an insane, touch wood, insane pain threshold and tolerance. And the minute he can play, even if it's with a sling or whatever, it's his non-shooting hand, he probably will play. He'll wrap up the finger. It's his middle finger, so it'll probably be like a middle finger, and it's going to limit him a little bit as in terms of ball handling and stuff, and it'll be uncomfortable. But there's no way that Scottie Barnes with one hand, and one hand kind of, a little less available, is not still a really, really good player and probably the best player on your team. He still would be. And I think if the Raptors are close, like with 6-7 games to go at the end of the season, if the play-in is still within sight, I'd expect them to play. So don't close the curtains on Scottie's season right now. What this is good for is Scottie getting rest, hopefully, getting some juice back in his legs, get healthy. There's a lot of aches and bruises and pains from playing so many minutes. Maybe just watching his teammates. He's a really smart player, so I think he can learn a lot about his teammates just from watching them, just studying them. You better believe like he's watching these games, right? So just watching RJ, watching Immanuel Quickley without him, it'll probably give him a good context of how to use those guys better when he's playing with them. And, again, it gives a little bit of an extended opportunity for guys like Grady Dick, Ochai Agbagi, DJ Carton, potentially Javon Freeman Liberty, maybe Jonte Porter, maybe Jordan Nwora, where you can see them step into a role that's maybe a little bit above where they've been with Scottie. And we can see that. This is DJ Carton, his numbers in college between his 2 years following, Marquette. He goes undrafted in the 2021 draft and, subsequently bounces around the G League a lot. One of the most concerning parts about this was there was a seismic regression, from year 1 to year 2. He was a 4-star recruit. He entered college preseason as a freshman of the year. Like, a lot of people expected a lot of big things from him at Ohio State. And I can't say that he had a bad year at Ohio State. He was pretty good. But there was a regression when it came to Marquette. And, while he didn't have to gap the transfer year, I think, the turnovers were really high relative to the assists. I mean, in his second year and sophomore year at Marquette, per 100 possessions, he had 6 turnovers to 6.5 assists. So 2 things that the Raptors have consistently been able to develop so far that I've seen is basketball IQ. So they've been generally able to make people like better playmakers. Seeing that a little bit with Gradey, seeing that, increasingly just getting better and better as a playmaker, seeing it with RJ, seeing it with Immanuel Quickley, saw it with OG a little bit. And they've been able to make guys like better finishers around the rim. I don't know about the shooting yet, but we will see. We'll see what their talent is like with shooting, but obviously Scottie's been better at shooting this year. Pascal is better now that he's in Indiana, so maybe a lot of the development work that they did with him here, ultimately they have shown a track record of making players better in Toronto, which is kind of like where the Raptors used to be when Jama was running things, and it's nice to see them kind of getting back to that. So overall, I think you're going to get some serious look at this roster, and maybe it falls apart. And at that point, I would like for this fan base to steer clear of any, Immanuel Quickley's a fraud, RJ Barrett sucks, Grady's not so great, etc. Because that's just stupid and toxic. And frankly, you have no business winning games without Scottie Barnes. You barely had business winning games with Scottie Barnes. Also, don't go to the other side. Don't go to the other extreme, in my opinion. Don't go to the other extreme of like, they win this game and they win, like, let's just say they surprise New Orleans because New Orleans is napping and they think they're going to get an easy win. And, suddenly Gradey gets hot from the three, and then it's just like, oh my God, are they better without Scottie Barnes? Scottie Barnes is a bum. Let's not do that either. And you can sort of just feel it in some of these stupid questions that the media asks, that they kind of want to get like a gauge of somebody giving a quote or a spicy quote of like, we don't really need Scottie. And then it's just weird, right? They all need a story to write, I guess. But I really liked how Immanuel Quickley answered that question. Obviously he didn't kick Scottie's hand on purpose, like relax. There's nothing to really apologize for. It's a freak accident. It could have happened to anybody. Nathan Taylor saying, I'm so proud of RJ. Yeah. He's been really good. I'm pleased with our Knicks duo. Yeah. I'm very curious to see over the next few weeks, like, what can you see from Gradey and Ochai, right? Because right now, Gradey could, I think, end up in like one of two different sort of situations where, I think he's pretty much proven that he's going to be a rotation player for you next year. His development has been very solid. A lot of really smart people said, this season was a wash for him. He wasn't doing well in the G League, and he's just turned a corner, and it's been pretty consistent, like for the last month and a half. Like Gradey Dick has been awesome for a month and a half. Like you can look at his splits. It's crazy. So now the question then becomes, is he like a 20 minutes per game role player for you next year? Or is he like trending into like, you can't avoid playing this guy 30 minutes because he's just that good and he provides just that much in terms of spacing, shooting, passing, playmaking, whatever. Because if he's stepping into that, like if he starts flashing, 20 points, every now and again, because I do believe with Scottie out, like he'll have a chance potentially to take 12, 15 shots and maybe 3-5 more shots, 5-6 more minutes. And yeah, maybe occasionally we start seeing flashes of, instead of a 12-point per game scorer, maybe we start seeing flashes of like a 17-point per game scorer. Okay, so now we are talking about potentially a starter next year. And how does that change your plans in terms of roster building? I think he's a really big swing factor for this team because regardless of what happens, he and Scottie are on this team next year. Unless something really unforeseen happens, RJ and Immanuel Quickley are on this team next year. Everybody else, to me, is like a complete question mark. I don't know. Probably Ochai will be there. Probably Jonte will be there. Maybe one of Javon Freeman, Liberty, and Carton will be there. I don't know about Jordan Nwora. I don't know about Bruce Brown. I'm pretty sure Kelly Olynyk and Jakob Poeltl will be there. So you're going to have a lot of continuity going into next season, but it'll be really nice to identify internally for yourselves, who are your dogs? Where are your gaps? How much more of a role can Gradey and Ochai take next year? Is Ochai even a part of your plans next year? This is a bit of a trial run. Don't consider this like a Precious Achiuwa situation where it's like, come hell or high water, we're going to give this guy 3 years. Yeah, he's 23 years old. And he's on his, he's heading into his third year. He's not going to have the longest leash. So this is his opportunity. And he better realize that this is his opportunity, because I will tell you, from what I watched tonight from Ochai Agbagi, as much as I respect him as a theoretical shooter, as much as I respect his, athleticism as a defender, some of his in-between stuff, his ball skills, his ability to create shots for himself, these things are very weak right now. And I got to tell you, unless you're a lights out shooter, like he does not do enough to warrant 15 minutes a night on a good team right now. He is on par with a lot of guys who might be in the second round. The difference is he's not 20 and he's not 21. He's 23. So he's going to have to get a hell of a lot better. You can't teach the athleticism. You can't teach the crashing of the glass. You can't teach, some of the point of attack defense. But he's going to have to pick out two things that he's just great at and just become consistent at those two things. So if it's point of attack defense, and hustling on the offensive glass, then we need that every single night. And if it's 3-point shooting from the corner, we need that every single night. And, boom, now you have a 23-year-old going on to 24, elite role-playing 3-and-D prospect to play 15 minutes a night for you. That's another box that you can tick, that you don't have to, go out and get another Bruce Brown replacement. You have that guy on your roster. And maybe he can learn a lot from Bruce Brown, because some of the cutting stuff that I saw, maybe that's why Bruce Brown is here. to accelerate the growth curve of an Ochai Agbagi, because Ochai could really, really take a lot from Bruce Brown. What he needs to learn from Bruce Brown is really like some of the playmaking, ball handling, reading the game, basketball IQ stuff. What he has over Bruce Brown is just athleticism, size, wingspan. Like, these things cannot be taught. And he's going to have this really interesting ability, as a 6'4", 6'5" guy, that he can be very multi-positional defensively and offensively. So I could see Ochai being a really small ball 4 at times because of his rebounding and athleticism, which would give the Raptors a completely unique, defensive identity. But I also think he could be like a point guard defender. Now, guys who can guard 4 positions, even in theory, do not grow on trees at 23 years old that can shoot. So the upside is there. The upside is not, however, in my opinion, starter, whatever. The upside is a very valuable utility piece off the bench on a half decent team. Let's hope he can develop into that. But it'll be really interesting to see that. And, for RJ and Immanuel Quickley, it'll just be growing as playmakers. I think they're both going to have a lot more reps. They're going to have an interesting, chance to work with Kelly Olynyk. Maybe Olynyk is like a bit of a prototype for the type of big that you really, really want long-term to pair with this core, which is a stretch big who can play make a little bit. Right now, you have 2 of the better big passers in the NBA in terms of, Kelly Olynyk and Jakob Poeltl. And that's sort of training your offense to work in a certain way, in a certain rhythm. And it's like a good place to be, like they can run delay action. These guys are really great at delivering entry passes. Like, it's kind of a strange dynamic where I could maybe argue that Kelly Olynyk might be your best passer right now. Right. And that's not normal. Typically for a team, your best passer is usually 6'2". And in your case here, 2 of your 3 to 4 best passers are like very big guys, right? All of your passers, all of your bigs right now, other than Chris Boucher, which might explain why he's not playing, are great passers. Jonte Porter is a very gifted passer. Kelly Olynyk is a gifted passer. Jakob Poeltl is a very good passer. So you have 3 bigs. They don't stop the ball movement. They have good ball skills. They can put the ball on the floor, get around a little bit, make the extra pass. The question really is right now, what is the playmaking level or playmaking talent level of your wings that could make you a lot more dynamic? Because right now, a lot of the action is running like through the bigs at the top, and the wings are cutting, or the wings are spotting up, or maybe one wing is setting a screen for a guard who's popping up above the break. And a lot of the action is going through that. But when your wings can become more talented playmakers, then you can flip it and you can become a much more dynamic offense. So I think the goal for the next 20 some odd games is really just going to be to expand the versatility in which this team can play different ways on different nights based on matchups. As I said, I think last live, I talked about the Golden State Warriors and the death lineup and what has made them so successful. And, they're once again becoming successful. And, prior to having to leave the team, Andrew Wiggins was very effective. And you got to understand like how you sustain the momentum and the system when you're going from Harrison Barnes to Andre Iguodala to Kevin Durant to Andrew Wiggins, right, to now Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga. Like, some of the same principles are in place, and you're just swapping the pieces out and in, right? And that is what makes the Golden State Warriors so dangerous, is that Steph Curry can do stuff with the ball and without the ball. Draymond is doing things with the ball, without the ball. Clay is doing things with the ball and without the ball. And so like every piece is always activated. You know what I mean? And you can definitely see that influence in terms of how the Raptors want to play. Like, they want RJ Barrett to be able to create off the dribble and for Immanuel Quickley to be able to initiate through the pick and roll. But they also want these guys to become good screen setters. And they also want them to become pick and pop threats. And they also want them to become like good cutters and in the half court, and good lane fillers and offensive rebounders and screen setters in the full court. And so, and you're trying to create these well-rounded pieces because you have all these like theoretical upside guys, like RJ Barrett. He has some theoretical upside as an initiating wing or a slashing wing, but he has all these like deficiencies in his game that make him much easier to game plan against. He can't go right, or he can't finish in this place. It's the same thing with RJ, with Immanuel Quickley. Like, yeah, he has the jump shot from the top and it's great and whatever. And he has that floater range game, and he has a little bit of in-between game, and he has a little bit of a handle. But because he doesn't pass well, you're always able to blitz him and force, a turnover, or, you're able to force out the advantage, and you're able to get the ball out of his hands. And then obviously if it goes out of his hands, and you have to then you're ticking time off the clock, and you're losing valuable time. And now the ball is ending up in the hands likely of a less capable playmaker. And now Immanuel Quickley has just been taken out of the play. Whereas, typically if a team is going to blitz like a really good ball handler who has some good vision, you're going to be able to make that team pay for it, which is why they're not going to continue to do it, which is just going to make him that much more interesting as a player going forward. So you have all of these players. Same thing with Gradey Dick. Gradey Dick's another example. He can shoot from the corners. Can he get better shooting from the top? Can he get, better at coming off the screens? Can he get better at, taking 2 dribbles and maybe even like turning around and doing a little bit of a post up? Is there something more in his game that can make him a little bit more dynamic than just a pick and pop guy in the corner or a spot up shooter, catch and shoot? Because he's great at that. Like, we need to see more of that. We need to see him become more of a threat as a pick and roll ball handler. We need to see him, become a better finisher and maybe even a better screener, a better defender. The goal in the previous regime was to get guys numbers so that they can get paid. I believe the goal under this regime, just my read on it, has been to make guys very complete basketball players. Not complete to the point where they don't have a discernible role on offense and defense and they're just jack of all trades, master of none. No, I think the goal has largely been to make guys more versatile offensively and defensively to the point where, you can invert stuff that maybe most teams can't. Like, you look at a team like the Hornets right now. How many different places can you put a guy like Brandon Miller? A lot, right? But you have guys like JT Thor and Bryce McGowan's, and maybe those guys aren't as versatile. Do you know what I mean? Look at the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks are a great example right now. They're able to run a lineup with like Derek Lively, and then his backup right now is Daniel Gafford. But if you wanted to go small, you can always put PJ Washington at the 5, and they're able to do that. And they're able to give like teams a completely different look with like either Maxi Kleber or PJ Washington, or they're able to put PJ Washington at the 5 and put Maxi Kleber and Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. And then now it's like, whoa, how do you stop this? Because now it's 5 out with Luka in the post. And this shifting, it gives the coaching staff like more adaptable chess pieces with which to milk the advantage, because if the other team is just going ham at you, hammering you on the glass and offensive rebounding or whatever, maybe the best thing to do is to get the big off the floor, and then having the pieces to do that will be very effective. So I'm very curious to see how these young pieces will gel together. Obviously for the Toronto Raptors, I'm very curious to see what the development will be like. I'm very happy that the Raptors have gone young, regardless of the fact that they will probably end up surrendering their pick this year, which is almost like a foregone conclusion at this point, given how bad the Memphis Grizzlies are and, the odds of keeping that pick, etc., given the Raptors won tonight and the Memphis Grizzlies also lost tonight. All of those things being said, I am personally thankful that the Raptors are playing guys under 25 and that they are developing. They're not just playing and they're not being held accountable. No, they are playing in a structured offense and they are implementing something that they'll be able to use next year. And you know what? Personally, I'm a big believer that if you go into the summer feeling good about yourself, your summer is different. And maybe the Raptors don't make the play-in, and for a lot of you, that's a good enough reason to just tune out of this season. I get that. I empathize with that. I appreciate that. However, for me, as someone who is just very preoccupied and perhaps obsessed with the process of winning and the process of building, the year before the Warriors won the championship, with Jordan Poole ascending and, struggling, and that was just as important as a championship run. The process is important. And for too long, the Raptors process has been kind of shit, and they haven't been able to pick a timeline. And it feels like right now they're going young, and they're going for development, and it's working. So I'm very happy to see these incremental growths week to week, month to month for all these Raptors young players. Can't wait to see it all come together. Hoping for a bit of a win streak, even though I know it's going to mean a lot of Scottie slander. I am very much hoping for a bit of a win streak because there's no reason not to win right now. And maybe, 6-7 games left in the season, Scottie comes back and it's like, gangbusters. I realize the odds of what I'm saying happening are less than 2%, 3% maybe. Maybe it's less than 3% that the Hawks or the Nets or one of those teams are just going to fall past you. But they could. They could. And the Raptors have a boatload of draft assets and cap flexibility. So it'll just be really interesting for them to get more conclusive data and analysis on how these players play without Scottie. And in a lot of ways, it's like isolating a variable in math. You're taking something that makes everyone better and taking it off the table, which is Scottie Barnes. You haven't. So now, all of those, Immanuel Quickley referred to like those 4 easy looks that Scottie gets for him every night. I think he gets him more, but whatever. Now you're going to watch Immanuel Quickley make those looks for himself. It's illuminating. It's interesting. It's going to isolate players to the point where I think their development this summer is going to become a lot clearer in terms of what they need to do. I remain very impressed with Gradey Dick over the last few games, last few weeks, last few months. I mentioned it earlier in the live. He's really turning into like my second favorite Raptor on the team. Cannot wait to see him in Summer League just come out and dominate guys. I'm telling you, between the ages of 16 and 25, there's like a growth that can happen for players. And there are certain players where it just never happens, certain players where it just sort of ekes out over like a span of like a few years, and you just see like one thing. But then there are certain players where, the season ends, they get into the lab for a couple months, they come back to Summer League, and you're like, oh shit. They're like that guy now. It happened with Chris Bosh, in second year. I definitely saw it with Chris. I felt it a little bit with Vince. Clearly, it didn't go as well for Scottie, but second year to third year in preseason, you started to feel that like, oh shit, this is real. If Gradey can take that jump from, 20-minute role player off the bench who can space the floor to, 35 minutes, 32 minutes, secondary initiator who can, play both ways and stretch the floor, the Raptors, trajectory just changes so much. Like, if he can get onto the level, and this might be a very, 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 very ambitious, outcome, but if he can get onto the level where we're talking about him in the same breath as we're talking about Franz Wagner, or Josh Giddey, like to that level where we're talking about him as a guy who would start on like 80% of teams in the league or 75% of teams in the league, that would be really, really great. So, I don't know why I just compared him to Franz Wagner. I think the more apt comparison obviously is, a guy like Reggie Miller or Klay Thompson. But yeah, like if he can get to that level, man, like that would be such a game changer for the Raptors, because not only would it add like a piece, when you're so talent starved, it would also add the piece. Because I got to tell you something funny. Every single time I played NBA 2K 21, 22, whatever, and I had Scottie, right? One of the first trades that I always made was I traded Fred VanVleet and contracts for Klay Thompson every time. And I don't know why the Warriors always agreed to it. Maybe I added a pick. But this Klay Thompson player type was always like my dream fit next to a Scottie Barnes. I don't know why I always did it. And by the way, when I'm done emails tonight, dude, I have a PS5 and NBA 2K24 that I got to open at some point. I've just been putting it off. I've been putting it off because I'm just like, no, you haven't earned it yet. You haven't earned it yet. You haven't earned it yet. But man, I can't wait to open that thing. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I just want a day. I want a day with my PS5, man. Like I've been kind of eyeing this thing. It's been literally sitting under a a palm tree, which we didn't get a Christmas tree. So we had a palm tree. We have a palm tree in our living room, and it's just been sitting there in a bag since December. And you think about it, that is shit. That is resolve. Okay, that is discipline. Because I have this notion of like, I haven't earned it yet. I have to finish this with pen dance. I have to do this and that. But I feel like I'm like maybe a week away. I got to do like the final pen dance stuff. Quick note, not necessarily about pen dance, but sort of about pen dance. Why am I getting like 1,000 emails? Holy shit, man. Jason, if you're watching right now, please stop messaging, dude. Like, I don't. Yeah. Okay. So calling it. Okay. So fun little note. What is going on with my hair right now? It's going weird. Just like a flop of hair. I need a haircut so badly. Okay. So we've been running pen dance with a team of 4 or 5 people for 2.5 years. This is crazy. This is a really big film festival to be running with 4 or 5 people. So the last 3 days, we brought on 3 different people that are all incredible. They're all great. And I'm really excited. So we are launching. So we announced our festival dates for next year. It's going to be February 26th to March 2nd. Pray to God there aren't like 4 Raptor games in that span. But if there are, I'm going to miss them, unfortunately. We're going from 5 features to 12, ideally. We're going from 36 shorts to 40. We're going from 1 venue, which is 1 screening venue, to 3 screening venues. We're expanding heavy. And we're going to plan a lot more. We're going to work really hard. And I kept thinking about this thing, about what to call this project that we're trying to do. It's called Project Oasis. Y'all see the desert. There's an oasis in the desert. That's how I feel pen dance is. Everyone who came to pen dance this year from the audience, but especially the filmmakers, said that it was such a breath of fresh air for them, that the space for independent ideas and independent thought just doesn't exist in today's world very often. That everything is curated, everything is marketed, everything is packaged, everything is studio, everything is mainstream, everything is Marvel, everything is DC. And this space for independent ideas needs to exist. And so I was like, okay, this is called Project Oasis. And so I created that. So this is part of what we want to do next year. And our sponsorship package, which I'm creating right now, the headline of it, because there's always a headline, says, "We will bring the world to Toronto next winter if you let us." So there's a lot on the line here. Obviously, I have big goals for Pintare basketball this year. I have big goals for pen dance this year. Yeah. Brother, you look like a mess right now with the hair. Bro, I look like a mess for the last, I want to say 2 months. I just don't feel healthy. I don't feel like right. I don't know. Like, but you know what's crazy? So it's easy when I'm 36 now. So I'm thinking like I'm getting older. That's why I look worse. That's just not even true. I mean, I am getting older, and that probably is part of why I look worse, but that's not it. I was looking at a picture of myself from 2019 when I looked just like this. It's like, I might have looked worse, actually. I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't doing anything right for myself. And then a year later, after I did start, looking, after myself, looks so much better, right? So yeah, it's just a solid year of good habits. It can really, really help. And obviously a haircut would help, and shaving would help, and sleeping would help, and drinking water instead of coffee would help. That's a really big part of the year too. Because I don't want to be like the worst looking person at a film festival. Not that I really give a shit about looks, but I'm tired of having to apologize for looking tired all the time. Do you know what I mean? And regardless of how I view it, I feel like a lot of people that I would meet, when I'm super tired and really just dressed down and my hair is a mess, they probably look at me like not very put together. Yeah. Sleep and drink a ton of water. Da, 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 da. It's coming. I quit for a really long time, and then I think like a week before the festival, it started again. So now I'm back into the quitting. In fairness, though, I was clearing my throat borderline, I want to say like 25 times alive. Like it was like every, 3-4 minutes, it was like, which was getting really bad. I think I'm down. So it's getting better. But yeah. Trying nicotine gum. I have been trying that, but it is hard. Yeah. I mean, I will. I've quit before. I will quit again. And yeah, it's a terrible, terrible thing. But yeah. Anyway. Do you think Gradey can get to Clay's level defensively? Well, he's bigger than Clay. And Clay is not exactly like a super athlete to begin with. I realize like a lot of people, maybe just assume that Gradey is bound to be a defensive liability because he's white. And I think that I've heard a lot of people just notion at that because typically there's a prototype of players like Pat Connaughton or whatever. But I'll tell you, like there are some he is not a bad athlete at all. Right? He's a really coordinated athlete. He has long arms. He's got some size. I think his issue right now is mainly understanding the speed of the game. But he's gotten better, man. Like, I mean, game after game, I'm seeing Gradey get a lot better defensively. Like, he's cutting off angles. He's becoming really smart. Now, is he going to become one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA? Shit, no. Not a chance. But could he become, like, the fourth best defender in a capable defensive unit starting lineup? Sure. Yeah, that I could see. So, upper body strength, lower body strength, like contrary to popular belief, guys are not hitting their athletic peak at 21 and 20. They're usually hitting their athletic peak closer to 24 and 25. So, yeah, I could see Gradey get a lot better. Okay. Montes Claw. Oh, dude, I almost reported you in my pocket for something nefarious, to be sure. Reported me? I don't understand it. Okay. Anyway, hit subscribe, hit like, all that good stuff. And nice to know that even on a Sunday night, even though this live started 12 minutes later than it should have, my bad. I really thought it was 9:30. Even against the Charlotte Hornets, even without Scottie Barnes, that this community still had 250, 260 people watching. That is really cool. So thank you guys for that and appreciate it. Nathan saying, but do you think being the fourth best defender will be viable in a lineup with RJ, Gradey, Scottie, and Yak? Or do you think IQ or RJ will take a step up? That's a good point because I think Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett have the physical tools to be capable defenders. They have also both been wow, I jinxed myself there on the coughing thing. They've also both been like positive defenders in New York. So this just makes me think like this is scheme related. This is, equilibrium related, and just trying to get to a point where you have a solid defensive unit is going to make guys a lot better. Offense and defense are very related. So getting better offensively is going to make you a little bit better defensively. Playing together more is going to make you better defensively, etc. So yeah, I just feel like the Raptors are a really hard team to judge right now because every 2 weeks they're starting a new starting lineup. You know what I mean? Like there's been so much turnover, so much disruption, so many trades, right? And I'm not complaining. I asked for all of them. I'm happy for almost all of them. And, I think the Raptors are fine. It's just you're constantly implementing these new pieces. And while offensively it's a challenge, I think defensively it's an even bigger challenge. So, yeah. Pacers lost today. Tyrese doesn't look the same. Feel bad for him, but that pick, though. Sure, man, but he asked for this, right? He asked for, help. He got help. Pascal Siakam, whatever. And yeah, I mean, to answer Lil John's question, do I think the Pacers regret trading for Pascal Siakam? What did they give up, man? They gave up Bruce Brown. It's not like he's a world beater. They gave up 3 picks. Maybe one of those picks will end up good. I don't know. But yeah, maybe there's a little bit of buyer's remorse. Maybe. It's not, I don't think the Pacers are losing because of Pascal Siakam. But, they certainly would not be the first team that maybe, overestimated where they were. I think they massively overestimated where they were. I don't think they're better than the Knicks. I don't think they're better than the Sixers when they're healthy. So what? Like, you've traded for Pascal Siakam to move yourself up one spot. That's how much of a difference I think he's made. And, I'm not gloating, but I'm kind of gloating because I feel like I felt like I was losing my mind saying this. Can we agree now that Pascal Siakam is not the difference maker that a lot of fans here thought he was? Like, I'm not saying he's the reason they're losing, but can we agree that he's not the reason that they're winning? You know what I mean? Like, if you're trading for legitimately a top 25 player, which is what a lot of his fans and his big supporters thought he was, if you traded Bruce Brown for a top 25 player, which is exactly what their fans think that he did. People were crying for weeks, like, oh my God, Scottie's never going to be as good as Pascal, blah, 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 blah. Okay. You traded Bruce Brown for supposedly a top 25 player, and somehow you're worse? That should not happen. There's been enough time passed at this point. Now, Pascal is certainly not the reason the Pacers are losing at all, but he is not $50 million player. And the Raptors, kudos to them. We don't have to worry about that this offseason. Y'all realize what a relief that is? That we don't have to, we're not going into offseason with a gun to our heads saying, okay, you're either going to pay this guy $50 million, an absurd amount, in today's modern NBA salary structure, or you're going to lose him for nothing because some trash team out there is just going to overpay because they have a superstar that they can pair him with. Because the Indiana Pacers, we'll see, what Tyrese Halliburton becomes and what Jarris Walker becomes and what Andrew Nembhard becomes and what, Benedict Mathurin becomes and what Aaron Nesmith becomes and what, do you see how much talent there is on that team? The idea that you could have a top 15 to top 20 player in Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, some people say he's a top 10 player right now. I'm kind of close to that, but not quite. If Pascal Siakam really was a top 25 player, that team would be running roughshod over the East because they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of talent. They have a great coach, in Rick Carlisle. It's just a talent deficit at this point. And you thought you were getting like this massive upgrade, and it's just not there. We got a caller. Okay, dude, I was just about to leave, but let's give you like, I'm gonna keep this 5 minutes. Marwan, what's up?
Hey Rob, how's it going?
Not too bad, man. What's going on?
I'm good. I actually just joined the live. I didn't know you were about to head out, but just wanted to ask you, like, after what we've seen, I mean, you said it, we were like want to know when the new era kind of without Barnes.
Sure.
But what do you think kind of where this team is going to go and how it's going to look by end of season? I mean, Atlanta's kind of free falling right now. Brooklyn doesn't look any good either. So what do you think? What do you think this season's really going to come out to?
A 3% chance at a play-in.
3% chance.
Yeah, it would take a lot for the Raptors to catch up to those teams right now. So more than likely, you end up like 11s. But what I will say, and what I've said several times throughout this live, unfortunately you didn't catch it, but you'd have to go back for it. But is that if the Raptors, like with 5-6 games to go, are like one game out, expect Scottie to play for sure.
Right. And I don't know if you saw the news or not, but we actually lost our vice GM, I think, or our vice president. I'm not sure which one it is, but I guess there's this girl. I'm trying to remember her name.
Teresa.
I'm not entirely sure. In any case, she was pretty integral to everything, and Messiah has been very, very high on praising her. And I guess we must have lost her. She left by mutual agreement recently, which seems like a pretty big loss for the front office.
That would be Teresa, but like, why?
I don't know.
I
just read about it on Twitter just now. So I thought that was interesting, especially to leave it at the middle of the season like that. I mean,
it's not really the middle of the season, but sure. I'm trying to I'm assuming that Josh Lewenberg would have tweeted about it, but like who tweeted about it?
No, I didn't see Josh Lewenberg. It was another tweeter.
Is it confirmed?
I don't know. I think so. I would think so. I mean, I don't see why anyone would like spread a lie about something like as specific as this.
Isn't that the genius of spreading a lie, though?
I don't know, but apparently, according to the source, and again, I'm just trying to remember who it was, but I can't remember. But they must have had a party for her or something. So it was by mutual agreement. But it was just weird because again, like Ujiri's been so so high, has held such high praise for her, and she's been with the club since 2013. So that's a big loss for sure.
Okay, but like, you don't know her name. Why is it a huge loss?
I mean, I'm being told it's a huge loss, but I just kind of wanted to get your maybe your insight on it. Just because I understand, from what I understood, she was also like one of the heads of the player development program at the Raptors, and she was also seen as someone who was like in a lot of
player
ways.
Development been really good the last 4 years?
I mean, it has been since 2013.
Fair.
So
like, I'm trying to understand like who this is. I want to make sure that this is confirmed before I go on deep dive about this.
I could check. You just give
that
me
would be very, very relevant. Yeah.
Let me check. Give me a second.
I find it really hard to believe that Michael Grange wouldn't have tweeted about this. Michael Grange. There we go.
It was a reporter called Lindsay Dunn reported it on Twitter from Sportsnet, and it says the name is Teresa.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, cool. So, let's see here.
And the news did just break 2 hours ago, so maybe that's why we haven't heard anything yet.
Player development has left the team. She has been with the organization. Her last day was on Friday. Cool. Okay. So, okay, let me pull it up on the screen here so that people can sort of see it. So that's the tweet. So let's just read some of the comments here. That she's leaving is surprising in itself. That she left before the end of the season, even more so. Add to that, this is coming after she already left. I hope everything is okay. This is not normal. She was a part of Masai's A team. Very concerning. She left on good terms. The team had a party for her on Thursday. Okay. Yeah, man. Like, here's the thing. Like, you look at situations like this. People leave for a million different reasons. It could be, it could be a family illness. It could be, a better opportunity somewhere else. She could be getting promoted. It could be just her contract has ended. Like, we don't know the scope of her responsibilities. It's very difficult to discern, even right now between Masai and Bobby, like who is responsible for what, much less going towards what Lindsay and Dan and these guys do. So here's the thing. Like, I'm just saying, like, I mean, brain drain is a common thing with any good organization that's deemed to be a good organization. You're always going to have a little bit of brain drain. Mm-hmm. And, I don't necessarily think that I can't say for sure, but like, obviously I've heard her talked about in like very, very high regards, but I can't say like, oh my God, the Raptors are going to be cratering without her. You know what I mean? She's been a part of like a very, very good period of Raptors history, but also a really, really bad part of Raptors history. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm always like, here's the thing. I'm always for, I've always believed that, change is good, even when it's not. Okay. So you feel like you've lost somebody, who was very integral to your situation, just like you lost Nick Nurse, who was very integral to your situation, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby. These guys are all like very, very integral parts of good things, right? They've lost Jeff Weltman. I mean, he was extremely instrumental in some of their scouting and draft decisions, and he was incredible, right? So this is just a part of, I think, the NBA and, how teams evolve, and, hopefully they'll be able to promote someone from within. If not, there's a job opening. Great. Find somebody great, because Darko Rajakovic has been a breath of fresh air, and he was not on our radar last year. We didn't, no one on this channel was talking about him. And now it's like, where the hell would the Raptors be without that guy, right? Jama, Patrick Mutombo, there's a lot of people that have gone into the growth and evolution of the Toronto Raptors. Needless to say, Dwayne Casey, etc., who left, right? So this is just, I don't think it's something to panic over, personally. We'll see. We'll see if the Raptors change philosophy or change direction in any meaningful way, but I doubt it.
Right.
Yeah. All right, man. Marwan, thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate it,
Thanks,
bro.
man. Have a good night.
Yeah. Good night. Yeah. I mean, executives leave, right? And hopefully, she's left on great terms and that she has a fruitful and great opportunity somewhere else. These things happen. Nobody's staying forever. And yeah, just be happy for her and, happy for the time served. Obviously, I've heard a lot about her over the last few years, and always positive, always good. So under no circumstances am I saying this is a good thing to leave somebody to lose somebody who's been such an integral part of your brain trust and organization. But sometimes it is good to have a fresh perspective. It's always been my view. It's always good to sometimes bring an outsider because they are not as invested in your prior concepts, and they're able to sometimes challenge things that haven't been challenged in the room. Again, sometimes they're not able to do that, and that's just theoretical. But I've always found, like with Penn Dance right now, I'm really happy that we're bringing in 3 people who are outside looking in. I'm hoping that they'll infuse something new. The only thing that can screw that up is, leadership that exists, like the CEO, president, founder, director, etc., whoever's in that, to shut that down. So I've always found Masai and Bobby to be very collaborative, and they allow guys to have a voice, and they allow people to, initiate things and lead initiatives, and whether that mean, a particular scouting job or a particular draft or whatever, they're trying to build people up. I appreciate that incubator approach. So yeah, hopefully they find somebody really great. Rue saying, but I thought Siakam was a top 20 player. You're telling me he can't carry a 60 with Tyrese is down. So he's the first option, second option, or third option by now. I think, yeah. I think the reality of Siakam is that he is probably a top 40 to 45, 50 player in the NBA, and probably will decline at some point to become like a top 75 player. And maybe that's not where the decline will end, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's just kind of my read on it. I've always been sort of the opinion that he's not as good as people think he is, and he's not as good as the numbers suggest he is. And, watching him in Indiana put up really good numbers, but, watching the team sort of lose because his defense and his rebounding and a lot of his, disruptive shot pattern and habits can sometimes, screw up what a good thing is, right? Like the way the Pacers were successful, it's really difficult to understand. I understand the notion of wanting to pair Tyrese with like a de facto second star, and Siakam fits the bill of second star, but so too did Julius Randle, and I don't think he would have fit in either. I think, it's a very delicate balance you sometimes have to strike when you pull someone into a winning situation. The Raptors hit gold when they brought in Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green, because it didn't disrupt anything, and in fact just added to it. And then they pulled gold again when they brought in Marc Gasol to replace to replace Jonas Valanciunas. I think there's some theory out there that maybe through some combination of Buddy Hield and Bruce Brown and Aaron Nesmith and Obi Toppin and Jalen Smith, that you were able to, in aggregate, create a more valuable, sort of package than Pascal Siakam. The flip side of that, of course, is that's not true at all, that the best player is still the best player, and that when it comes to playoff time, Pascal Siakam is going to be a huge benefit, because as the rotations shorten and teams are, having to play their top guys more minutes, it's going to help to have a guy who can sort of deflect some attention off of Tyrese. So either way, this is not Schadenfreude. I wish Pascal Siakam and the Pacers the best. I'm not rooting against them. I'm not rooting for them. I genuinely don't care at this point. Obviously, if the playoffs were to start today, probably rooting for OG Anunoby in the Knicks, former hometown. As much as I just want OG to be successful, maybe I'd be rooting. I cannot root for Sixers because of Joel Embiid. I despise Joel Embiid, so it's very hard for me to root for Kyle Lowry and the Sixers, but it would be nice to see Kyle win a championship. That's not going to happen. So maybe ultimately my real answer is I'll just be rooting for Denver in the West, right? Yeah. The mayonnaise mania continues. Thank God Indy took the deal. Yeah. Timing lines up with Teresa maybe helming at a WNBA expansion team. That would be great. That'd be really cool. Also, She-Wolf, while I have you here, if you look at the Pendants folder, the pictures folder, you will find a picture of yourself and your son with the red carpet visible. I was going to email you about this, but this is so much more effective and easier and way less embarrassing, right? Okay. All right. Take care, guys. Have a great one. I'm out. I'm going to get some sleep. Probably I'm going to walk my dog and then I'm going to get some sleep. Okay. Y'all can continue talking about Pascal Siakam in the comments. Yeah. Take care, guys.